Well, it's time for Media Watch now, and James Creedon is with us in the studio. Hi there, James.
Hi, Laura.
We'll look at today's top stories, starting, of course, with the British Prime Minister's visit to Dublin.
Indeed.
The Irish Taoiseach, Leo
That's
Varadkar.
right. I was paying attention. Sort of home turf
Yes.
stuff. But of course, Brexit, you could fill hours and hours and hours every day with all sorts of angles. But
It was a little bit tense, wasn't it?
It was. I'll zero in on that now, just to give you a sense of how because relations are at a bit of a low. They're not here in the France 24 studios where Irish and British people get on very well, I think it's fair to say. Far away from all of the, hoopla.
Neutral France.
Exactly. Neutral territory. But Dr. Jennifer Cassidy, she's an Irish politics professor at Oxford University, and she really doesn't have much time for Boris Johnson, as I think he's not liked by certain contingents.
He's not the most popular man in Ireland.
No, he's not. So just to give you a sense of how some people would have felt the optics and body language wasn't great. If there is one thing I want to get across to you today, Leo, and I think she didn't really like the informality of it. She felt it was rude.
Leaning.
She felt he was arrogant. He was leaning while the speech was going on. So there was a bit of that. Now, you see, it all depends on how you spin it, because here you have another photo of the two of them looking very chummy and a handshake. This is on, of course, the Conservative Party's Twitter feed, and they're kind of making it out as if there's some sort of agreement in place, which I suppose there isn't.
Well, they
really.
did agree that they want it done by the end of the month.
That's right. But
how it's done, isn't
this
it?
tweeter, I think, puts a bit of a veneer, a bit of a polish on it.
Yeah,
the Irish Prime Minister doesn't want any more pointless delay. So that is a bit, I suppose, that there is a bit of polish involved in that. Now, if you go to politico.eu, how Ireland lost patience with Brexiting Brits. Now, this is quite a long piece, but just to zero in on one detail there, the Irish government this week doubled down on its plans for a no-deal exit. For Ireland, giving in to British demands now over the backstop and whatnot would be accepting permanent negative consequences, while no deal would be terrible but temporary. So it's true that Dublin has come around to kind of saying, look, we don't really want this, but there's no point in another delay and another delay. We actually think 31st of October, let's do it.
The economies are so entwined, aren't they?
Totally intertwined. And some people saying that
even aside from the backstop issue in Northern Ireland and all the rest of it, I mean, the Irish economy and the British economy are really
very intermatched.
On each
the free
other,
travel area, and then of course so much trade across the border. So in any case, this article looks at how there has been a souring of relations. If you actually go back to this meeting in 2017, it was all very jolly. It was 5 days after Leo Varadkar became Prime Minister. And there was a lot of joking. For example, Leo Varadkar mentioning Love Actually, and how Hugh Grant danced down the stairs. A lot of people found that very cringy. But all that by way of saying the tone was very light, and there was a lot of levity. And if you look, by contrast, Johnson has only spoken twice with the Irish Prime Minister by phone since taking office. An unusually long period of time elapsed before he made the customary call to Dublin. And the second phone call was made in the wake of a bomb attack in Fermanagh, a sign of worsening destabilisation in Northern Ireland. So certainly there has been quite a degree of souring. Much more we could say on that, but probably better
we'll have
move
to
on.
wait and see, won't we?
Yes.
Oh, that one, not long to go. Okay, talking about extending the hand of friendship, Donald Trump invited the Taliban for talks at Camp David.
That's right.
And then he changed his mind.
But he was like, oh, it's probably not the best idea. Trump proves he's a better deal breaker than a deal maker, but I suppose we kind of had figured that one out. This is in the Washington Post. Deals are my art form, President Trump proclaimed in his ghost-written book, but they're talking about how he tends to break deals. He's not very good at making them in any case. That's one piece kind of reacting to this news. Trump's invitation to the Taliban was disgraceful. And this is a piece by Jennifer Rubin in the Washington Post, also in the Washington Post, kind of not being able to, scratching her head as to why Republicans remain quite silent about it as well.
Blowing up American soldiers in Afghanistan, so it is an interesting invitation.
I mean, a lot of people couldn't quite understand why there would be that degree of extending a hand at this stage. Now, Donald Trump, of course, himself was very critical of Barack Obama going back to 2012. You see, you have this Twitter log here of past statements which can be dug up rather inconveniently at times. Indeed, that's been mentioned. Now, why did he do this? It looks like some kind of pre-agreement was initialed, or some sort of a text was finalised between the different sides. But apparently, this all came down to optics. And this is Matthew Gertz of the Media Matters for America. It's the US, the premier progressive media watchdog in the US. He's referencing a piece in the New York Times which says, so the Camp David meeting collapsed in part because Donald Trump wanted to use it to scam the press into thinking that he brokered the already agreed upon deal, whereas the Taliban wanted to sign the deal before going to Camp David. So actually it collapsed on the basis of trust. But of course it also collapsed because it was a massive bomb that went off. Of course I shouldn't be in any way sniggering at that awful news altogether.
In Afghanistan, yeah.
So what was Trump thinking, asks USA Today. A lot of people just really incredulous, saying bad negotiating against also the 9/11 backdrop. You know, the summit would have taken place 3 days before the 18th anniversary of the terror attacks. Taliban and Al-Qaeda have had links in the past. So it shows a degree of incompetence, according to the USA Today.
Some journalists approve of the president's strategy.
That's right. Of course, it's all very polarised in the US as elsewhere at the moment. Trump's Taliban decision was smart. This is an opinion piece by Representative Michael Waltz on the Fox News website. He's showing leadership where Obama failed. And what they're saying here is that Trump, he was right to invite the Taliban in the pursuit of a lasting peace. And he made the right call also in cancelling those negotiations when they proved deceitful. The same opinion being expressed here in the Washington Examiner by Tom Rogan. Trump was right to invite the Taliban, right to cancel them. So there you go. As usual, all very polarised.
All right, James. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks
James Peter there.